you awaken. And it's not what you expected. The world you knew, your roles, your goals, the very story you told yourself shatters like glass under light. In its place, clarity, a sacred silence, a widening of awareness that makes the old dramas seem like echoes from a dream you've just stepped out of. For a moment, it's euphoric, a return. You remember who you are beyond the noise. But then, something unexpected happens. The flame that once drove you ambition, excitement, craving, hunger dies down. The passion fades. You feel hollow, adrift, like a match that's burned through all its fuel. And this is the part no one warns you about. The part after the light, where instead of ignition, there's extinction. You didn't fail. You've entered the paradox of awakening. What most people don't realize is that awakening doesn't feel like ascending a mountain. It feels like falling through the floor. At first, your illusions dissolve, your identity loosens its grip. But then, the very things that made you feel alive, your striving, your dreams, your plans start to feel foreign. There's no panic, just stillness. And it can be terrifying. This isn't depression in the clinical sense. It's not apathy. It's something far deeper. It's sacred exhaustion. A space where your false self has dropped away and nothing has yet taken its place. And though it may feel like death, Carl Jung would say it's birth. Unseen, quiet, sacred birth. Jung called this space the liminal, the sacred terrain between the collapse of the ego and the emergence of the self. It's a space our culture doesn't know how to hold, because it doesn't fit into a productivity schedule or self-help checklist. It's the chrysalis phase in the soul's metamorphosis. The caterpillar doesn't strive to become a butterfly. It dissolves. It liquefies. The old form disintegrates to allow the new one to emerge. And yet, because we're human, because we've been conditioned to equate stillness with stagnation, we interpret this inner death as failure. We try to fix it, bypass it, or rush it. But Jung warned us this stage is not to be bypassed. It's initiation. The dark stillness is not a void. It's a womb. At the center of this unraveling is the persona, the mask we wear to fit in, succeed, and be loved. Awakening tears it off, not with cruelty, but with clarity. You begin to see how much of your life was performed, not lived. You chased approval. You chased safety. You played roles you thought would protect you or prove your worth. And now, with those roles crumbling, motivation disappears. Why? Because your old why wasn't yours. It belonged to the mask. So, of course, your drive vanishes. The actor has left the stage, and the script no longer makes sense. But this isn't the end. It's the sacred pause before truth emerges. This stage isn't about losing your edge, it's about shifting your source. From external validation to inner alignment. Jung called this the individuation process, the lifelong journey from fragmentation to wholeness, where you stop acting from who you think you should be and begin living from who you truly are. Individuation doesn't promise comfort. It promises coherence. You may begin questioning everything: your career, your relationships, your life goals. Not because you're lost, but because you're being refined. What once felt right now rings hollow, not because you're confused, but because you've outgrown the costume. This is not detachment, it's discernment. Here's the critical mistake many make in this space. They confuse stillness with paralysis. You're not stuck. You're stopped. And there's a difference. Stillness in this stage is not absence, it's gestation. Jung referred to this as the enantiodromia, when one extreme inevitably turns into its opposite. So, if you've lived your life in overdrive, Awakening will call you into stillness, not as punishment, as balance. If you've spent your life chasing purpose, awakening may strip it away not to leave you empty, but to teach you how to be full without chasing anything. This is the sacred pause. Not a gap in your life, but a holy recalibration. But silence has its own gravity. It pulls things to the surface: unprocessed wounds, suppressed anger, forgotten grief. The shadow emerges not as an enemy, but as a teacher. Jung taught that the shadow holds all the parts of us we've denied or disowned, not because they're bad, but because they didn't fit our persona. And now, with the mask gone, the shadow has space to speak. It may come as dreams, irritability, fatigue, long-forgotten memories surfacing. This is not regression, it's reclamation. You're not falling apart, you're falling inward. And what the shadow demands is not action, but attention. Witness it, feel it, let it burn clean. Because the self cannot emerge unless the shadow is integrated. And then often, without warning, a new pulse begins to stir. Not a spark, not a blaze, a hum. Quiet, steady, undeniable. A new kind of motivation emerges. It doesn't scream. It doesn't push. It simply invites. This is the soul's voice. It doesn't care about status, or goals, or deadlines. It's not here to conquer. It's here to align. And slowly, you begin to act again. But now, action comes not from panic, but from peace. Not from fear, but from fidelity to your truth. Your motivation now flows from meaning, not momentum. You no longer chase. You respond. This is what it means to live symbolically, a concept central to Jung's vision of the self. To live symbolically is to see your life not as a checklist, but as a conversation with the soul. You start to follow dreams, synchronicities, intuition. You trust the subtle currents instead of the societal current. It doesn't mean life is always easy, but it becomes coherent. Your choices begin to match your essence. The chronic self-betrayal dissolves, and in its place, a quiet congruence takes root. You create, you serve, you love, not to be seen, but because it's who you are. You become less interested in being impressive and more devoted to being real. And so, we arrive at the truth many miss, that the emptiness after awakening is not the absence of purpose. It's the clearing of space so that true purpose can arrive. That silence is not a void, but a threshold. And that what dies in awakening was never really you. It was the mask, the performance, the survival strategy. You are not extinguished, you are being refined. You are not lazy, you are listening. You are not failing, you are forming. The self that emerges from this journey is not driven by scarcity. It is led by soul. So if you feel like everything you once loved no longer fits, if the goals you once chased now feel like someone else's dream, if you find yourself staring into space, no longer sure who you are, breathe. You are not broken. You are becoming. The fire is not out. It's gone deeper. The light is not gone. It's gone inward. And from that inner place, it will rise again. Not as noise, but as music. Not as striving, but as presence. Not as performance, but as truth. This is the real beginning, the beginning of becoming.